Hi there, welcome to the Babri Young channel. Now today I'm going to be talking about hairbands. These things. I've got long hair and I have to tie my hair up, so keep it out the way so it doesn't, as it were, get in the way when I when I go to work and when I'm doing, especially doing sewing. You don't want the hair coming down and getting caught in the machine, so it could be a hazard. So I always tie my hair up, and I tend to use these sorts of things, these sort of hair bands, and you know, they last a while and then eventually they go. I've always got one or two on my wrist. I mean, you can make them a fashion accessory, I suppose, jewellery fashion accessory, but you know, wear them on your wrist because I've always got one there anyway. But normally what happens is over time they sort of lose their stretch because it's just a piece of elastic in there, until eventually you end up with that, you know, just a bit of material with supposedly something inside because the elastic's gone in it. So they don't last forever. And then earlier today, when I was going through my big stash of off-cut stuff, I've got a huge bag here of, you know, bits, and I thought, well, it's just a rectangular piece, isn't it? I'm sure that I could reuse some of those off-cut pieces from that that bag. And I do cut that stuff up. Sometimes I'll cut it up really small so I'd be able to use it for stuffing, but there's loads there. I've got a humongous amount of the damn stuff building up, so let's try and make some hairbands. I thought, why not? I mean, there should be enough in there to be able to make a basic rectangle. I've got some elastic and I should be able to have a go at doing a few, like the one I've actually already done, the one I've got in my hair at the moment. That one I made, quite simple once I worked out, you know, the basics of how it could go together. Now, as far as sizing goes, my notes on that, my notes are, right, that the elastic, this stuff, now you can use whatever colour you like, use black or white, or if you've got some other colour, it's obviously normally, like in this one, it's black inside this one, and you're not going to see the elastic because it's going to be encased in the material. So that's not a problem really, but you can have different colours if you really wanted. And then I worked out that about 25 centimetres, depends on the length of the band that you want really. I mean, this one looks like it's a bigger hairband, so you probably need maybe a longer piece, or if you have a smaller bit of elastic, it's going to be scrunched up more, and I think that's what they call them sometimes, isn't it? It's called a scrunchie. So there's more scrunch in the hairband if you have more material, less elastic. So, but I reckon about 25 centimetre long, with a width of about 8 to 10 mil on the width, because obviously if you have that, dropping everything today, never mind, if you have that as too wide, you know, on that width, then how well will it, or how easy will it be to tie your hair up once you've got the elastic in there? So I thought 8 to 10 mil width elastic will probably work just fine. So back to my notes. Right, so that's the elastic. Now the material, I reckon something between, as far as the width goes, about 9 to 10 centimetres, with a length of somewhere between, you could say, like 35 to 40 centimetres on the length, but with the stretch. Now here's the other thing as well, I suppose you could make it out of any scrap of material, but looking at most hairbands, the material tends to be a stretch material, so maybe go with a stretch material with a bit of stretch, preferably on the width rather than the length. But I mean, I'm going to have a go at doing it with some material that's not got any stretch in it at all, which is this piece of material. And of course it's cotton, so there's no stretch in that, but hopefully the hairband, it's the elastic and the fact that it's scrunched up because of that will hopefully mean that it'll work. I hope so anyway. Whereas the other bit of material, which is another one I'm going to make, is this material, and this does have a stretch to it, and as it's got two-way stretch, so it stretches both ways. But if you've only got a stretch in one direction, then hopefully you'll have enough material to get the stretch with it on the width. Like there's stretch on the width rather than the length. Don't know if that makes sense, but you know, give it a go. I mean, if you're using scraps of material, then it shouldn't matter too much if it doesn't quite go right. Just seeing if it'll actually work with these materials. So I suppose I better get them pinned up or get stitching up and get started to see how quick or slow it's going to be to do. Right, I've just pinned my material together, just folded it over, right sides together, pinned it in, and then I'm just going to zigzag that. Not going to do a very deep hem on that, it's going to be quite shallow. And I've got it on a zigzag, but it's fairly narrow zigzag, but with a medium width on the stitch, on length. Now I'm going to sew my piece of elastic. With this I'm going to be doing a zigzag, again a narrow zigzag but with a much shorter stitch length. I normally try to start in the middle of the elastic, come forward a bit and then go back to going over it, as it were. Doesn't matter about the colour of the thread, it won't be seen. There we go, that's the elastic sewn up, and I just trim the edge of that elastic off just to neaten it up. There we go, that's my elastic done. Just now need to get that into the material. So now I have my band of material and I have my elastic. Now the other thing with this is that if you've salvaged your elastic from a previous job or some other garment that you've taken apart, then this is working out to be really really cheap little make, isn't it? Salvaged elastic, scrap material. I'm liking this even more and more. So first thing to do is to actually put your elastic around, and then of course it's going to start scrunching up. Now this is a stretch jersey knit and it's got two-way stretch, so the edges won't fray, so it's not a problem, but I still want to have a neatish edge in there. So what I want to do is turn that over on that side, and now here comes the tricky part. I've now got to take this side over to here to meet it on that side, so I got a neat edge, and then I've got to pin all this all the way round, and that's where it tends to get a bit tricky, because now I've got to hold that in place, get pins in there, and at the same time keep this elastic in the middle so that it stays just where I want it to. So here's a task in patience. This is definitely going to test your patience doing this, but it is needed to be done. You know, it doesn't just form together, because you're dealing with something that's going to be on the inside that's currently on the outside, and you know that there is another way of doing these hairbands that I've seen on another YouTube channel. I'll see if I can find it and put a link into it. I think it's a young lady called Sadie Belsey, so I'll have a look, see if I can find her channel and put a link into that, because she's done a hairband but did it in a different way. Looked a little complicated, but it seemed to work, but there you go. So but yeah, I'll have a look, see if I can find that. But it's this process of pinning it all up and getting it all into the right shape before you sew up this edge. Now, like I say, with this one, because this doesn't fray, I'm not worried that there's one raw edge there, when I stitch it down, I'll stitch close to that edge with a zigzag, and it won't be a problem, because that's how I've done the red one that I've got in my hair at the moment, and it seems to work just fine. So I'm going to carry on and get this all pinned up, and then see about stitching it up. Now, if you're going to be using a non-stretch material like this one, this cotton material that I've got, and you don't want it to obviously fray out, because unlike the jersey knit stretch doesn't fray, this will. So what I've done is I've turned the edges over both sides, so when they fold it over and they meet on that side, I'll have two neat edges, and the fray bit is on the inside, so hopefully won't be affected quite so much. So, and that's how I'll stitch that one together, and hopefully that won't be a problem. Right, so now I'm going to just do another zigzag stitch where I've got this all pinned up. Now with this I'm using again a narrow zigzag with a sort of medium length stitch on it. Obviously if you've got a sewing machine that doesn't have a variable length, you can't change the length based on which zigzag stitch, then just go for the one that's sort of like the middle one if you've got 3 or 4 different stitches. So not the very first one, that's going to be the narrowest or shallowest, but maybe the next one on. But this machine does allow me to set this zigzag here to variable length of stitch based on a shallow width. So better shut up and get on with it, I suppose, really, shouldn't I? Hopefully it'll go smoothly. Trying to keep the stitch close to the edge as well, to the edge of the band. Obviously this isn't going to fray out because it's jersey knit material, but I don't want the stitch to be way off in the middle here, so just gently work my way around it, I suppose. A little bit of difficulty when I come to where the join is, so get your needle to just go into the material and just lift the foot up a couple of times, maybe just as you're going over this section. I found that just to make sure that it sort of runs over as even as I can. And there we go, stitched up. Just tidy these ends up and basically we're done. So there you have it, hairbands, homemade, out of scraps, and effectively hasn't cost me anything. So if you find yourself a little short of hairbands and you do have some material left over and a bit of elastic, just make yourself a hairband, a little blue one, red one, white. Look at that. Could almost say red, white and blue. So yeah, little hairbands, great little things to make, don't take very long. I've done 3 of them in a day basically. I could have made more if I'd really wanted to, but there you go, really quick and easy thing to make. And they don't have to be really flash as long as they are functional. Stretchy material works better than non-stretch material, but I mean they're both, that's cotton, that's a jersey knit stretch, so there you go, all work absolutely lovely. Great way to use up some extra little bits, and yeah, quite like them, very nice. Well, thank you for watching my video. I look forward to joining you in my next one. And you know what, it's such a nice day, I think instead of doing any more sewing, I'm going to go out in the garden. Bye.
Yeah.